Namaskar friends. There is a human tragedy unfolding silently before our very eyes. This is a story of millions of refugees forced, yes forced, to return to their country of origin. Many are returning to a country they had left decades ago with very little prospects of settling down. This is the Afghan refugee crisis of 2025. I am Tilak Devasher and you are watching The Great Game Reloaded. The Afghan refugee crisis is one that the world pretends is not happening and does not want to see. It is a crisis of massive proportions because Afghan refugees are not only in huge numbers, they are also people with dreams. Their dreams are now overshadowed by the need to survive. Over the past year, more than 1.5 million Afghans have been deported from Pakistan and Iran. 1 million more face immediate deportation. Let that number sink in. Imagine a mid-sized city being emptied overnight, its people forced into exile, carrying nothing but the clothes on their backs and a ton load of grief. But who are the refugees? They are the unfortunate people who have had to flee Afghanistan in waves as it became the victim of superpower rivalry in the great game of the 21st century. The first wave started in December 1979 when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. Millions of Afghans fled to Pakistan and Iran to escape the communist takeover. Many returned when the Soviets left Afghanistan in 1988, and many more would have returned if the Mujahideen had been able to form a consensus government. Instead, a bitter civil war broke out on ethnic lines, paving the way for the rise of the Taliban and their takeover of Kabul in 1996. This provoked another wave of refugees who fled to escape the repressive Taliban regime. Another wave of refugees followed after 9/11 when the US bombed the Taliban out of power. Many refugees again returned back when the Karzai government came to power in the wake of the Bonn Agreement. However, peace could not be established due to the out-of-power Taliban starting an insurgency from southern Afghanistan and gradually moving northwards. Ultimately, with strong Pakistan support, the Taliban retook Kabul in August 2021, prompting a fresh wave of refugees. Now, the refugees are being pushed back into a land where the situation is already precarious. Jobs, freedoms, food, girls' education, and even hope is at a premium. Putting this into perspective, between January and mid-July 2025, nearly 1.5 million Afghans have been pushed back from Iran and Pakistan. In July alone, over 500,000 returned from Iran through the key crossing point of Islam Kala in Herat province. Despite these staggering figures, the resources available for the returnees are inadequate, and alarmingly, this crisis has received little attention on the global stage. Let's start with Iran. Iranian authorities estimated about 2.6 million Afghans were living in the country without legal documentation following the fall of Kabul as the US-led foreign forces withdrew. The provocation for expelling refugees seems to have been the war with Israel. Iranian media has run stories labeling Afghans as spies for Israel after the recent Israel-Iran conflict. According to Reuters' first-hand accounts, quote, "They saw us as spies. From ordinary people to police, everyone said, 'You Afghans are our first enemies,'" unquote. Another deportee recounted, "They threw us out like garbage." In just 15 days since the war with Israel ended, Iran expelled over 500,000 Afghans, pushing the total number of returnees to over 1.5 million since the beginning of the year, according to the UN International Organization for Migration. While the Red Cross says more than 1 million people more could be sent back by the end of the year. Now let's look at Pakistan. According to the UN, Pakistan hosts 1.52 million registered Afghan refugees and asylum seekers, an estimated 1.4 million Afghan citizenship card holders, along with others living in the country without official recognition. In October 2023, Pakistan launched its illegal foreigners repatriation program. Over 700,000 undocumented Afghans were sent back. But from April 1, 2025, Pakistan started deporting even those holding Afghan citizenship cards, people who had legal status for years. Many were born in Pakistan and had grown up and studied here and know only Urdu and not Pashto. However, they are being expelled as a matter of national security. Refugees call it betrayal and abandonment. The motivation in Pakistan's case is to pressurize the Taliban government in Afghanistan to take action against the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, who have been attacking Pak security forces in the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa and especially the former federally administered tribal areas. Pakistan thinks that by expelling the Afghan refugees, the Taliban will be compelled to take action against the TTP. As the former DGISI wrote in an article, when was the last time the Taliban acted under pressure? Both in the case of Iran and Pakistan, a deeper question is, why is this happening now? Simply because global attention is shifted elsewhere and it earns these countries no brownie points for hosting millions of quote-unquote brotherly refugees. Most returnees arrive with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Many find their homes destroyed, jobs unavailable and families scattered. The United Nations and other international organizations have called the development one of the biggest forced movement of population in decades. The other side of the coin is that forced repatriation risks further destabilizing Afghanistan, already battling a humanitarian crisis. Compounding Afghanistan's woes, its economy, crippled by sanctions on the banking sector since the Taliban took over, now faces severe aid cuts by Western capitals. The UN Assistance Mission in Afghanistan, UNAMA, has warned of a looming humanitarian emergency as mass deportations of Afghan refugees continues. UNAMA also highlighted that reintegrating returnees into Afghan society will be one of the greatest challenges. The UN says Afghanistan's formal economy has collapsed. Aid has shrunk from US $3.2 billion in 2022 to just US $538 million this year. But the moot point is what happens to those being sent back. Women face the harshest fate. The Taliban, who returned to power in 2021, have enforced a system of gender apartheid in Afghanistan. Women returning to the country have to live with oppressive laws that bans them from showing their faces, speaking, or appearing in public, as well as being excluded from most jobs and education. Anyone caught breaking these rules faces public flogging. Under Taliban rule, women cannot travel alone. Thousands of lone women deported from Iran are now stranded at the border. They have no male guardian, meaning they cannot travel even to their own villages. Children are the invisible victims. Many arrive hungry, dehydrated and sick. Some die in the scorching 50 degrees C desert heat during deportation. And what about those who worked with former NATO-backed Afghan government? A UNAMA report revealed horrifying details in several cases. Returnees tortured with sticks and cables, subjected to mock executions and waterboarding, former female journalists kept under effective house arrest. One man told UN officials, and I quote, "They broke my leg, they cut my hair, they beat me until I confessed to crimes I never committed," unquote. The Taliban deny all allegations. They reject claims of torture or persecution. They insist no former military or civilian individual has been arrested solely because of their previous affiliation. But multiple human rights groups, from the UN to Human Rights Watch, present evidence to the contrary. The forced deportation is becoming a death sentence or a near-death sentence for many. The UN calls it a violation of international law, breaching the principle of non-refoulement, sending people back to countries where they face persecution or torture. Well, this is the situation of Afghan refugees in Iran and Pakistan. What about the situation in the United States and the United Kingdom? In the US, thousands of Afghans present are no longer protected from deportation after a federal appeals court refused to postpone the Trump administration's decision to end their legal status or temporary protected status TPS. They now face deportation back to Taliban-controlled Afghanistan. Their legal avenues are vanishing, their future uncertain. Meanwhile, a travel ban on Afghans has left thousands of Afghans stranded, particularly in Pakistan, and diminished their hopes of resettlement in the US. In the UK, up to 100,000 Afghans could have been placed at risk after a British soldier, according to The Times, in June 2022, emailed the names of 33,000 people who supported British forces to a contact he hoped would help verify their applications for sanctuary. The list included names, phone numbers, family details. The list has apparently reached unauthorized hands in Afghanistan. This was a catastrophic breach. It exposed Afghan interpreters, drivers, cooks, engineers, and even British Special Forces contacts to Taliban retribution. The British government launched Operation Rubific to secretly evacuate some of the most at-risk Afghans. Over 16,000 were resettled. But what about the rest? Tens of thousands of Afghans remain trapped, some hiding in Afghanistan, some stuck in Pakistan or Iran, facing deportation, some crossing into Europe in small boats, risking death. What is the way forward? The UN has appealed to all countries to stop forcibly sending vulnerable Afghan nationals back to their homeland under the Taliban regime, warning about the threat of arrest, torture and abuse that these citizens face. The displacement crisis in Afghanistan is a silent storm, poised to evolve into a catastrophic situation if not urgently addressed. Islamic Relief Afghanistan's Communication and External Relations Manager, Dahir Abdullahi, says, and I quote, "I have a feeling that we are on the brink of witnessing one of the most significant humanitarian crises, potentially in decades or even in the last century," unquote. The Afghans are a proud people, but today, Afghan mothers beg for scraps to feed their children. Fathers stand humiliated, unable to protect their families. Girls sit silently as their schools are closed forever. The war in Afghanistan may be over, but for Afghan refugees, the battle for survival has just begun. Thank you for watching. Please like, share and comment. See you soon with another episode. Till the next time, I am Tilak Devasher. Namaskar and Jai Hind.